Good morning, friends. So today we will be discussing the continuation of the chapter number 6 in module 3, the classes. So in the yesterday class we have discussed adding methods to the class. So in adding methods is the yesterday class. Day before yesterday we discussed about the instance variables, how to assign the values for the instance variables and all. In yesterday we added a method to the existing class called box, and in yesterday class you have seen through different assigning the values. So I will have a fresh up of that because the continuation will be used here. So first method is you are going to assign the values. So while assigning the values, use the first method. First method is assigning the values by taking the variables. You create an object called mybox1. mybox1 is an object of class box. So my box will contain how many instance variables? 3 variables. So for each object you have to give, for every object you have to take the 3 values, one for width, one for height, one for depth. So this is the first form of assigning the values. So if there are n number of boxes, suppose in our example we have taken my box 1 and my box 2, but if there are 10 or 100 number of objects of my box 1, my box 2, my box 100, then if you want to assign the values for each and every box from my box 1 to my box 100, then the program goes lengthy and it is not possible to easily understand. So in order to overcome the assigning the values to the instance variables one by one, now we use the concept called setdim. So what the setdim is going to do, so rather than assigning the values one by one, you directly call a statement called mybox.setdim of 10, 20, 15. So before that you should have a function called setdim. So inside that setdim you should have function called setdim that contains 3 variables. One is width, height and depth. So that you have called this the particular thing setdim is a function, and what the function and the variables, everything instance variables should be placed inside the class. So another class, you create an object and perform an operation on variables as well as functions. So that's why we are going to consider here. So I am going to repeat it again. So because this is required for the next topic called constructors. So here the class box is there. It contains how many variables? Instance variables, 3 variables. And how many functions? 1, 2, volume. The other one is to set the dimensions for each and every instance variables. So that we should take it as width is equal to W. So keep in your mind here W, what you gave. So this is called 10, 20, 15 are called actual parameters, and WHD are formal parameters. You are not supposed to take the same width, height and depth in place of WH and D. Okay, so both should be different. Okay, if there are same, then it goes to the concept called error. Okay, so for that you should differentiate this instance variables with formal parameters. So that's why we call it as width, height and W. So here you are setting for setdim for how many instance variables? 3 variables. So if there are n number of boxes also, you can initialize by set the dimensions for each object. Suppose, come for the problem here. Suppose the number of dimensions here are only 3, that is width, height and depth. If number of dimensions are more, take for example 10, 15 and all, at that time it looks cumbersome, it looks confusing for every user to understand the which value is for which dimension. So that is the code. Yeah, what is the problem you have in this set dimensions? If the set dimensions, if number of objects are more, then you can set the dimensions for objects. But if number of dimensions are more, then that leads to the problem. So in order to overcome, we come across a concept called constructors. So keep in your mind, the following all these points are to be remembered. So it is tedious to initialize all the variables in a class each time an instance is created. That means, so using setdim, it is very difficult to initialize each and every instance variables inside the class. Even though you have the setdim operation, it will be simpler. It will be simpler to have a setup only when the dimensions are only when the dimensions are less and number of objects are more. So now you consider there are 10 dimensions: width, height, depth, and so many things. So 10 dimensions and number of objects are also more. So number of objects doesn't mean anything, but number of dimensions are more, then it goes to the leads to the confusion. To overcome this particular thing, because the requirement for initializing the instance variables, ಅದೇನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ setdim ಅನ್ನೋದು 10, 15, 25, it will initialize the instance variables to 10, 15, and 25. Okay, so in order to overcome, if there are more number of instance variables, Java allows the objects to initialize themselves when they are created. Initialize themselves when they are created. So keep in your mind where the object is created. So object is created in the statement box, my box one is equal to new of box. So I will consider this particular program. So where is the object initialize when the object is created? So where is the object? So object is here. My box one is an object. So my box one is an object which belongs to box. So when you give this particular statement, this is called, we call it as a constructor, object calling a constructor. Okay, so when this object, my box one and my box two are the object. So keep in your mind, I will tell you according to our program, class name is box, instance variables are width, height, and depth, and methods or member functions are volume. Okay, so and outside the class you go for another class, and inside the main you give the objects. Objects will act on instance variables, objects will act on methods. ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಇರೋದು ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಒನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕಂಟೈನ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್. So another class will create an object of that particular class. So what is the object? My box one and my box two are the objects which belongs to which class? Box class. So for that, objects will act on instance variables. So ಹೆಂಗ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತವೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, my box one dot width you give some value, my box one dot height you give some value, my dot one dot depth you give some value. Okay, that is objects acting on instance variables. Next you come for the methods. So object dot method name. So what is the method name you have? You have the volume as the method name. So a method name na ivaga ee object call madutte. That is, you take it as my box one dot volume, my box one dot volume, my box two dot volume. Okay, so that's why. So here is the main thing I have highlighted. So constructor initializes an object immediately upon creation. So when you call an object, what is the object in our example? It is my box one and my box two. So objects create agid takshana initialize ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. So whether you assign the values or not, it will be initialized to 0. So my box one is an object of which type? Box type. Box will contain how many instance variables? 3 variables. So my box one dot width 0 irutte, my box one dot height 0 irutte, my box one dot depth 0 irutte. It will initialize as an object immediately upon creation. It has the same name as the class. So where is the constructor? You have to keep. It has the same name as the class in which it resides and syntactically similar to the method. So keep in your mind, you are having the word called syntactically similar to the method. So where the method or member function will come, it will come inside the class only. instance variables followed by methods. So there you will get a constructor. So I will tell what the constructor is. So that particular constructor will initialize the object immediately upon creation. So once defined, it is automatically called immediately after the object is created before the new operator completes. So what is the return type of the return type of bunny? So I've already told it is similar to the method. So class name ಏನಿರುತ್ತೋ constructor name ಅದೇ ಇರಬೇಕು. So as in our example, the class name is box, the constructor name is also box. Okay, so our object is going to have how many values? 3 values. Okay, so initially before assigning the values, it will be set to 0. Okay, so implicit type is the class name itself. So now before going for this example, you come for this particular program. So here is the box uses a constructor to initialize the dimensions of the box. ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದಾವೆ ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವು? Width, height, and depth. You are going to use the constructor to initialize the dimensions of the box. So class box you have taken, which are the instance variables, depth, width, height. Next you call a constructor. And so as I told previously, constructor is similar to a method. So after the instance variables, now you call a constructor. Method andre eno? It is a function. Function idre enirbeku? You should be having a brackets open and bracket close. Okay, and with a function name similar to the class name. So keep in your mind, yeah, they have told you that it has the same name as the class, same name as the class in which it resides, and similar to the method. So constructor name in ಬರಬೇಕು, class name ಬಂದು bracket open close ಬರಬೇಕು. So class name ಏನು? Box. Bracket open close ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದೈತೆ? Comments here, it is box. Inside this constructor, what is the use of creating the constructor? So it uses a constructor to initialize the dimensions of the box. So which are the dimensions? So for that you are writing constructing the box. It's just a simple printf. Initialize the dimensions. What are the dimensions? Width. So width is equal to 10, height is equal to 10, depth is equal to 10. You are initializing the values. So this completes. Next you have the same volume which returns width star height star depth. So okay, so now you call for this comes under one particular class. So now you take the other class which consists of main, create an object. So how many objects you will be creating? It is my box 1 and my box 2. So box my box 1 is equal to new of box anta kottida takshana enagutte, you will be creating an object my box 1 which should have 3 way values and which should call one type of function. So that is the concept. So my box 1, my box 2, output variable val. Now to get the volume, so now I call a object on method. So what's the object? My box 1. What is the method? ನೋಡಿ, ಇದು ಮೆಥಡ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟ್ ಎರಡು ಮೆಥಡ್ ಇತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್. ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, ಯು ಆರ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಅಸೈನಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್. Okay, so but where is the computation? Computation is in compute and return values is in volume. So at that time you are going to take my box 1 dot volume because it calculates something. But don't take my box 1 dot box, it will not calculate something and doesn't assign any value. It is a my box 1 dot box tagondre just enagutte andre you are assigning the values that is already, that will be already done by this particular statement when you call this 2. So similarly my box 1 dot width alli, so if first line ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣನೇ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ 1 ಅನ್ನೋ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಮೈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ 1 ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ 3 ಡೈಮೆನ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ವಿಡ್ತ್, ಹೈಟ್, ಡೆಪ್ತ್, ಅಂಡ್ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಅವಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೂ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಾವು ಯು ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಫಾರ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್. ಈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದು ಈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಸೇಮ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್. Okay, so now the values are assigned here. Next you are going to compute. myBox1.volume storing. So as you have taken a returning a value from a method, so you should take one output returning variable wall, so that will print the statement. Similarly, you calculate for myBox2.volume and print that particular. So when you call this particular object myBox1.volume, so constructing box anta barutte. So next, similarly, myBox2.volume constructing box, and finally the volume will be printed according to the values. As for each and every box will contain the same values, 10, 10, 10. Box 1 volume and box 2 volume will result in same. Different values ಕೊಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, same default ಆಗಿ ಒಂದೇ values ಕೊಡ್ತಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ you are getting the values as same values. Okay, so box 1 will also have a values 10, 10, 10. Box 2 will also have a values 10, 10, 10 only. Defaultly you are giving some values. ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರಲಿ ಇದೇ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮು 1000 ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, suppose if each and every box should take different values, at that time what should be done? So in this example, we have considered myBox1 and myBox2 are the objects which take the same values 10, 10, 10. But if each and every box is taking different values, at that time, what should be done? So this is the default constructor what you have created. So it is defaultly assigning all the objects with the dimensions 10, 10, 10 only. If you create box 1 to box 100, all the values of box 1 to box 100 will have the values 10, 10, 10 only. So suppose if you want to use different values, so suppose my box 1 ಗೆ 10, 10, 10 ಕೊಟ್ಟು my box 2 ಗೆ 10, 20, 30 ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ at that time you have to go for the different constructor. This is the default constructor which assigns all the objects with the same value. So if you are going for the different thing, then you have to go for a concept called parameterized constructors. Okay, so this comes the explanation of this particular program. A programming in the example with explanation il kottiddivi. So you can check that box 1 and box 2 were initialized by the box. Since box gives all the same dimensions 10 by 10 by 10, both my box and my box 2 will have same value. The println statement inside box is sake of illustration, will not display anything. Before, let's re-examine the new operator. When you allocate an object, you use the following: class var is equal to new of class name. Now you can understand why the parentheses are needed. So parenthesis is needed to tell that class name, this part is a constructor. So constructor defaultly ನಾವು ಕೊಡ್ದಲೆ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ ಅದು ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರು ಅದು ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ತಗೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ you take it as box 1 is equal to new of box, box 2 is equal to new of box ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೀಯಾ. ನೀನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಈ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀನು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೂ you will be assigned with my box 1 dot width 0, height 0, depth 0 assign ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. But when you initialize directly these values, so my box 1 dot width 10 ಇರುತ್ತೆ, height 10 ಇರುತ್ತೆ, depth. So ಈ ತರ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಅದರೊಳಗಡೆ values you will be having it as 0. Okay, so that is the explanation. New box is calling that you call it as box. My box 1 is equal to new box. New box 1 is calling the box. When you do not explicitly define a constructor, Java creates a default constructor with a box. Now you come for, suppose each and every object, box 1 will take different values with height and width depth, and box 2 will take different values with height and depth. So then you come for the concept called parameterized constructors. So parameterized ಏನು change ಇರಲ್ಲ, everything will be same, but you are giving different values. So what are the different values? Box, so that we will consider in this following program. So uses parameterized constructor to initialize the dimensions of the box. So for that you're taking it as a class box 1 box, which with instance variables width, height, depth. You call a constructor box width W, double H and double D. So keep in your mind, you have to make use of the different parameters. So different parameters you should use. So one for width, one for height, one for depth. So a best example andre you will be having actual parameters and formal parameter. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ add of a comma b ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು add of x comma y ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೀಟರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. Can you understand that? Calling an add function, don't come for this concept. Calling an add function, inside the main you give c is equal to add of a comma b. Outside the main function, you give it as add of int x comma int y. So ab are the actual parameters and xy are the formal parameters. So keep the same thing here also. Here you are having a method, function method ella unde. So what is the function? It is a my box 1. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು values assign ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ. Values are 10, 20, 15 and here it is 3, 6 and 9. So now we are going to assign that to instance variables. So in order to assign the values 10 ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ assign ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ you should store that value 10 into the another variable and that is to be stored into the width. So for that purpose you are taking it as box of W, H and D. So W, H and D are called actual formal parameters and width, height and depth are called as actual parameter. ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಅಂತ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. So you should not have same name as instance variables. So instance variables are actual parameters. This WHD illu ನೀವು width, height, depth ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಕ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ. So both should be different. Okay. So if there are same use ಮಾಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ in concept that we will discuss in the next topic. So for now you will be having box rather than giving value 10, 10, 10. You are taking it in the form of parameters W, H and D. So what the W will contain? It will contain the value 10, H will contain value 20, D will contain value 15. Rather than giving it in the form of the default values 10, 10, 10 kodale, now you're taking in terms of parameter. What the parameter? W is a parameter which contains value 10. H is the parameter which contains 20 and so on. So for that you take it as double width, height and depth. So this one box of WHD is similar to box of 10, 20, 15. So this part is same. So my box 1 will assign the value width 10, height 20 and depth as 15. Similarly, my box 2 width 3, height 6, depth 9. So this is the concept. Now and next will be as you will be returning. Now you will be taking this as a constructor where you assign the values. ಯಾವಾಗ ನಾವು ಈ ತರ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ತಗೊಂತೀವಿ when you have each object is having different values, you give it like this. Okay, so you should give the here W, H and D are the parameters. ಇವಿಷ್ಟೇ change. Okay, so double volume, return width, height, depth. So that completes the class box with 3 instance variables, one constructor method to initialize the values and a volume method to compute the volume. So now you take the box demo, declare, allocate and initialize. What is the declaration? So my box 1, that means my box 1 is a object of data type box that will give you a declaration. So declaration int a another badlu a is an object of integer data type. So here we tell my box 1 is a object of box type which should take how many values of type box type and allocate. While allocating, you are going for a new concept called new of box. So new of box will do the allocation. Okay, next initialize the box object. New of box as you have taken here W, H and D, you can assign the 3 values directly here only. Okay, so this is the use of parameterized constructor. Here you are passing the parameter 10, 20, 15 to the width, height, and depth. Similarly, you take the mybox2, which will take 3 values, and return our variable wall. Now you call a function mybox1.volume and mybox2.volume that will give you the different results. So now my box 1 will contain a value 3000, my box 2 will contain the value different. So here you are getting the different values. So this is the concept of parameterized constructor. ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೀಟರ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. when each and every object is having different values, you go for parameterized constructor. If the each and every object will contain same value, then you go for the default constructor. So that illustrates the parameterized constructor. Next, you come for the concept called this keyword. So I already discussed the this concept pointer. It is a pointer which refers to the current object. So which is the object? You take the previous example, mybox1, mybox2. So when you call a mybox1.volume, when you call mybox1.volume, so which is the object? Our object mybox1. Suppose you want to retrieve the values of mybox1. Suppose you want to retrieve the values of mybox1. So you can use the concept of this. So it is a method. What is the method? Volume is the method that will refer to an object. Which object? mybox1. So mybox1 is an object that has referred a method called volume. So at that time you can use this keyword. This is used inside any method to refer to the current object. Always refers to an object on which the method is invoked. You can use this anywhere. So and that I will take you to the constructor concept. So rather than giving box, if there are n number of objects, box 1, box 2, box 3 ಹಂಗೆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಾವು ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ 1 ಇಂದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ರೆಫರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಟ್ ದಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ದಿಸ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು define the values, then you take it as this dot width, this dot height, this dot depth. Okay, this is the this keyword. So it's operates exactly like the earlier version. Use of this is redundant. It will always refer to the invoking object. Okay, so next continuation of that, instance variable hiding. What is the use of this keyword? So that will tell you the concept instance variable hiding. So artha madkoli. So it is a very very important concept. So it is illegal in Java to declare two local variables with same name inside the same enclosing scopes. So ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಲೋಕಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಲೋಕಲ್ ವೇರಿಯೇಬಲ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತೀರಾ? So declare two local variables with same names. So there also the variables you are taking. Variables means instance variables. So instance variables you are taking it as width, height, and depth. If in a function, if you are making use of same names, then what is the concept? Say allu use ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ, next coming methods allu use ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? So you can have local variables including formal parameters to methods. So at that time, when a local variable has same name, when a local variable has same name as an instance variable, then local variable hides the instance variable. So keep this one in your mind. Local variable has the same name as an instance variable. So while giving the values for width, height, and W, if you take width is equal to width, height is equal to height, depth is equal to depth. So at that time, what will be the concept? Whether it will take the values or not. It will take the values, but it will hide the instance variable. Local variables will hide the instance variables. So in order to explain that concept, so you come for this particular program. So here in this program, you check where is the local variable and where is instance variable. So local variables are W, H, and D. As you all know, instance variables are width, height, and depth. So local variables will hide the original instance variable width, height, and depth. So these are the instance variables, and WHD, these are the local variables. So in order for this purpose, you are making use of variables called W, H, and D. So W, H, and D are the local variables. Width, height, and depth are the instance variables. So instance variable hiding, to in order to understand this concept, what is the main problem is, if the local illu, if you are giving width in place of W, height in place of H, and depth in place of, directly assigning the values, width is equal to width, height is equal to height, depth is equal to depth is equal to depth, will come for an error. So in order to overcome, we go for a concept called instance variable hiding, where you use a different names. That's why we use width is equal to W, height is equal to H, and depth is equal to D. Now you come for this concept. So we're not used as names of parameters to box inside the box W. So that's why in width, height, and depth were not used as a names of the parameter to the box inside the box class. So inside the box class we are taking the name as W, H, and D. So you are not supposed to take ನೀವು values ಕೊಡ್ತಿರೋದು instance variables ಗೆ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ನೀವು ಅದೇ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀನು ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ನೇಮ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಿ ಟೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ as W, H, and D. Okay, so that is the instance variable concept. So after that, now you come for this particular example. So rather than choosing that particular, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಡಬಲ್ ವಿಡ್ತ್, ಡಬಲ್ ಹೈಟ್, ಡಬಲ್ ಡೆಪ್ತ್, there you give width double W, WH, WD. So there you have come across width is equal to W, height is equal to H, and depth is equal to D. So this is the another version where you can use width, height, and depth. And width, height, and depth with the same names, but we use using this pointer that will be given as this dot width is equal to width, this dot height is equal to height, this dot depth is equal to depth. Or you can directly, rather than using this, you can also go for width is equal to W, height is equal to H, and depth is equal to D. This is the another convention for used for instance variable hiding. Come for the last topic of this particular chapter, garbage collection. So garbage means, so when inside the main program you have n number of objects created, my box 1, my box 2, my box 3, ಎಲ್ಲ objects create ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ. So once the objects are used and calculated the volume, so if there is no use of objects, so what you are going to do? So whether it will be considered as a garbage or what, that will be illustrated with this particular concept. So since objects are dynamically allocated using new, object create ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ, new operator ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ. But when objects is of no use, are you going to use delete? So that concept will come here. So C++ dynamically allocated object can be manually released by the use of a delete operator. But Java takes a different approach. Here we are going to create an object using new, but there is no delete operator. You are not supposed to have a delete of an object. It handles, for that Java uses deallocation for you automatically. This technique is called as a garbage collection. It works like this. So working of this will be like this. So when no reference to an object, so if the object does not call any instance variable, if it doesn't call any method, so at that time, if no longer is done, then memory occupied will be reclaimed by the Java. when no reference to an object. ಸೊ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನೋ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಯಾವುದು ಮೈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಒನ್. ಇಫ್ ಮೈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಒನ್ ಡಾಟ್ ವಿಡ್ತ್, ಹೈಟ್, ಡೆಪ್ತ್ ಈ ತರ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಏನೋ ಕೊಡ್ದಲೆ, ಮೈ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಒನ್ ಡಾಟ್ ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಅಂತ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ದಲೆ ಇದ್ರೆ, ಅಟ್ ದಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ವೆನ್ ದರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಟು ಎನಿ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್, ದ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೀಮ್ ಟು ಬಿ ನೋ ಲಾಂಗರ್ needed and memory occupied will be reclaimed. Therefore, there is no explicit need to destroy the objects as in C++. So Java garbage collection occurs sporadically during the execution. It will not occur simply because one or more objects exist that is no longer required. So that gives that is garbage collection will not will only occur during the execution of the program. ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರನೇ ಆ ಗಾರ್ಬೇಜ್. ಇಫ್ ನೋ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ calls any instance variables or method, then that particular object is being removed automatically. So that is the garbage collection. So up to here will be this chapter 6, that is classes inside module 3. As this your module will consist of classes, inheritance and exceptions. So up to here will be the classes concepts. So listen carefully, understand the concepts. So you should be familiar for writing the programs other than given example. So that is the important thing I need. So ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ನ. ಟ್ರೈ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್. ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲೇ ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಯು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ದ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ದ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ದೇ ಗಿವ್, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ವಾಟ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಯು did in a default constructor, parameterized constructor and all. So you should be familiar with that thing. So you should be able to write your program of your own by understanding the concepts. Okay, if you have any doubts, you may contact me or using my numbers and all. So up to here will be the concepts on classes. From tomorrow I will be going through inheritance. Okay, thank you.